Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Retrospectives right here on the Super Review Show. I am joined by my two co-hosts, Kyle and Mike. What's going on?
Ready to be controversial today.
Damn right.
Me too.
And for those of you who listened or watched this last week, my stream is a lot better now. I fixed all my internet problems. So hopefully that carries over for the rest of the night. So we'll have to see. Fingers crossed. But as the title of this show presents itself, we're going to be talking about and breaking down and ranking Sum 41's entire discography from the beginning up until the most recent release. And I'm going to let Kyle go first, not necessarily to share like his list yet, but just give some overall impressions and whatnot. So Kyle, going into one of your favorite bands, Sum 41, do tell what stands out. What's some of your favorite stuff about them? Share some details.
I've been a big Sum 41 fan since really they came out. I say when All Killer No Filler came out back in like 2000, 2001. I heard Fat Lip and that immediately got me into the band. Been with them, been a fan since. What I like about them is really that they're the only pop punk band that you can't really put just into that generic pop punk label. They're the only one that's really branched into like experimenting with like some thrash metal tendencies at points. Usually when you hear metal put into pop punk, it's more like the metal core style, like Day to Remember, easy core type thing. I like that they went completely different route. They have some pop punk albums, they have some more metal leaning albums, and I really big fan of a majority of their work. Most of it, there's some here and there that we'll get into, but as a whole, huge fan of the band. They're still incredible live. Saw them like a month ago, and incredible show, incredible band. Looking forward to talking about them.
Mike, what did you got for Sum 41?
Yes. So, Sum 41 for me was always more of a I like 2-3 songs off each album. I could make like a best of like 2-3 songs off each album, and I never really ventured beyond that with them. Obviously, to some degree, that I would listen to I catch another song from a different album and like it, but I never really like drilled the albums in my head like monotonously, like just constantly like learning every song. So this was like a kind of an interesting thing for me. So one thing I actually picked up on is how this band definitely got a little more heavier, metal, and instead of like straight up pop punk stuff as the albums come along. But you can actually hear a lot of influences from Linkin Park on a couple of these albums that I picked up on, and I didn't expect. I always kind of seen them as mostly pop punk, and like obviously the guitarist, who is just freaking, he's just a manimal. That's the only word I can describe him as, is just a beast of the riff, and just he is the saving grace in my opinion. That he keeps the band from selling out to one specific kind of sound. I mean, maybe he loves punk and loves metal and wanted to fuse them together. Maybe it wasn't like a band decision or something, but it was his own creation. I don't really know that for sure. I have to check with Kyle on that one. He's more of the historian of Sum 41. But once he left the band, you could tell things had changed, and you could tell where he picks back up and how it changes everything. So I just appreciate the perfect equation that they sometimes have, where it's not too much of one or too much of the other, but a perfect kind of equation of metal and punk and pop punk coming together and making a good union of that. So I'm just definitely happy to look into their albums more than I ever had.
Yeah, I mean, and going into it for me was like, I've always been a pop punk fan from, nowhere near to the extent of Kyle, but I've always enjoyed pop punk. I've enjoyed punk rock in general. And diving into each album of Sum 41, album by album, I was like, oh wow, this is quite the progression of starting out as something that's like really quite pop punk rock, going and then transitioning into a much harder riffs, like almost like an alternative metal or metal in general. It was quite the experience going through all these albums in one. So it's one of the things I love about when we do this is, and it's not just hey, let's pick an album and go, or pick a latest release and go. When we do our discography breakdowns, I really like how we're able to break down each album, talk about each album in a little bit more in depth than we normally would for a regular album, which I really like that we do that with this. And I feel like this is a great pick for Kyle that Kyle chose for us to do. And I'm glad he did it, because I really, really got into songs that I didn't really think I would get into, but now I have, because I've listened to all the albums from the beginning of their career up until their most recent release, which we'll get to at the end of this stream. But overall, just a solid band. You could definitely tell it's like almost like Green Day and Metallica had a baby at some point. Just saying. I don't know. That's the way I kind of felt like that a little bit to some extent, but that's me. But yeah, that's overall just a solid listen to all of them. I have not seen them live. Kyle has seen them live, of course, but that doesn't stop me from saying, hey, why not give it a shot one night? But overall, just a really good listen overall. And let's dive into their debut album, which was starting in 2001, which was all killer, no filler. I'm gonna let Kyle go first on this one, just so we could lead off and start our conversation of Sum 41's debut. So Kyle, what overall impressions, track listing, what do you got for all killer, no filler?
This is, let's be honest, one of the most iconic pop punk albums ever.
Yes.
For a very good reason. It's a very good album. What a way to start. Technically they had the half-hour Power EP before this. That one was more in line with like the skate punk that was going on at the time. This one was a little more mainstream pop punk sound, in a good way. In terms of, if we're doing track list right away, I would go, Fat Lip is honestly one of my favorite songs of all time. It's as basic as that might sound. It's such a well-written song. But now that I'm older, and now I feel like a sellout every time I listen to it, but it's fine. Also, In Too Deep, Motivation, again, great songs. All the single choices on this one were fantastic. You can see why it got so big. But what I think needs to be pointed out is there are so many, I guess you call them deep cuts on this album, that are incredible songs that I feel like don't get the recognition they deserve. For me personally, Heart Attack is one of those. It's ever since I first heard the album, it's been top tier for me. Same thing, Crazy Amanda, Bunk Face. There's not a bad song on this album. Only one I'm not the hugest into is Pain for Pleasure, but I think it's a pretty humorous way to end the album. So that's my initial thoughts on it.
Awesome. All right, Mike, what about you? What about all killer, no filler, track listing, overall impressions? What do you got?
Now, for me, a lot of this album tended to, I was listening to this album when it was first released. I don't know about you guys. Were you guys listening to this when it was first released?
Oh yeah, I know when it was.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I was in 2001. I was in high school, just almost graduating, and it was beaten to death almost to a fault. It was kind of for me, being the guy who likes heavy metal, it was a little bit of a tease, where it's I'm gonna hit you with this pop punk song that you're not a huge fan of, because in that time I wasn't a fan of it, and then I'm gonna hit you with some crazy solos and some thrash riffings for a couple seconds, and then I'm gonna go back into the pop punk, and you're like, whoa, I want to hear more of that. And it was no, we're going to do some crazy songs where they're really fast, and we're edgy, and we're trying to prove ourselves. This is to prove we're pop punk, but we're also punk enough that we don't want you to make fun of us for being pop punk. And we're trying to gain that respect within the community. And a lot of that hate came towards them because of being that kind of goofy kind of looking band, in a sense of the hairstyles and the kind of sound that they were bringing. But they were gaining some respect with that edge of that metal riffing, and that kind of heavy, that guitarist is bringing it. It's just, I think this album was a little too early for me in that evolution. And I mean, obviously the main hits are were iconic, and they were just setting the stage for what these guys could bring songwriting wise, and how they could evolve that without kind of maybe being so pop punk that it would alienate those people who were kind of coming from the other side of music and needed something else to hear when it kind of, in that musical equation. So yeah, I appreciate the album, and it's like it's straightforward kind of what it did for the genre. And yeah, like it's actually surprising to know that they were able to kind of keep most of these members in the band until much later. Until much later they ended up kind of losing some of them, but the core of the band stayed within the songwriting and whatnot. Yeah. So yeah, I mean the singles are my top tracks. One of the songs that I really liked was "Handle This." It was actually one of my favorite of the album. And yeah, most of the early tracks I wasn't a huge fan of. Fat Lip, yeah, Into Deep. But "Handle This" was a great song, and yeah, I think that it had some other good little under found gems on it. But overall, yeah, it's a little too early for me in their evolution of sound, but I appreciate it, I guess you could say.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, as a debut album, I mean, I was very young when this was 2001, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I was literally 3 or 4 years old when this was hitting. And I mean, I would later go back to stuff like this, not just for now, but like just a couple of the hit singles. Like the singles that got released, like Fat Lip, Into Deep, Motivation. Like those are my big 3 standout tracks from it. I mean, and they are, Kyle hit it on the head. There are just some great songs in here that you're right. Probably I haven't seen them live, but they probably don't get as much light live or in general as they should, because they are. I was listening to it through all the way through, and I'm like, oh my God, like why this would go over great live, or this would be a great track in general. I was going off like this, aside from Fat Lip, Motivation, and Too Deep, aside from those, they like aside from that, like aside from those 3 as my standout tracks as the singles that got released. I know that sounds like a cop out, like oh he went for the singles or whatever, but those are just for me personally. But I do agree with Kyle though, there are some good standout tracks on here that are deep cuts, yes, that maybe could be revitalized more as time goes on for whenever they play live, or just something in general like that. I mean, there's a lot of, I love it when there's an album that comes out where there's like 2 or 3, maybe 4 big singles that get released in general. And then but the rest of the album is just that good of a record. And like the deep tracks are still great songs, you know what I mean? I felt this way a lot with this album, a lot, truthfully. Again, as someone who's not a huge 741 guy, but who did this discography breakdown with Kyle and Mike today, I was thoroughly entertained as well. And then that's something that I really found very incredible about all killer, no filler. That's for me personally though. I would say, but the question is for all 3 of us. Let's start with Kyle. Where does this rank amongst your Sum 41 albums?
It's an iconic album. I think it's solid all the way through. As the title entails, there is no filler on this album, which I love. I hate albums with filler, but they have better. It is still early in their progression as a band. I put it number 3.
Okay. All right. Mike, where does this album rank for you as far as their career as a band goes? Where does it rank for you?
Yeah, I gotta come all the way to 5. I'm sure there's somebody headed to my house as we speak. But yeah, like I'm sorry. I felt it definitely it appealed to that mainstream audience with those songs that kind of came on and they played to death. But in the in-between songs, a lot of them trying to like be as like punk rock as possible, kind of came off just trying a little too hard to like live both worlds. Like, hey, we're pop punk and we can write a great song, but then yeah, watch this, we're gonna like look at this attitude. Once they kind of got out of that, and like later on in their later releases, they don't do these songs where they just like start like with the drumsticks where we were gonna go blazing fast. It's like, okay, cool, like you're punk, relax, we get it. So I felt like there was a little bit of that going on this, like, prove ourselves, but we're gonna write some songs that are gonna never leave your head ever to this day. And while they did one side, never leaving your head, they failed of kind of trying to bridge that real punk and pop punk together, to get that cred, I guess you could say. But yeah, 5 for me. Seems like a good place for it.
This album is very much American Pie soundtrack music.
Yep, 100%.
Oh my god. Yeah, it did definitely. I didn't even think of that. That's actually a pretty good comparison right there from American Pie. I have All Killer No Filler at number 3. This is my number 3. So Kyle, you said 3 as well, right?
I did.
All right, so that means we're matching up right there. Yes.
Villain status has been confirmed.
Oh god, we'll have to see if Mike is the villain at the end of this. At the end of this one, we'll have to see, of course. But yeah, All Killer No Filler. That's our top our filler for that album. Just kidding. All right, let's go to their next album. Was it 2002, which was Does This Look Infected? We started with
yes.
Oh god. We started with Kyle. We're gonna jump over to Mike for a sec. Mike, talk to me. Did you initial impressions, overall thoughts on Does This Look Infected, the second album by Sum 41, and standout tracks as well when you get a chance?
Yeah, for sure. So now, this album, I think I took hold of a lot of those more aggressive riffs and the things that I was actually looking for. I began to kind of like, I didn't want to admit it to my friends because I was like, yeah, Sum 41 sucks, bro, right? And I'm like, yeah, man, screw that band. They're like, yeah. And then, like, when they walked away, I'm like, yo, actually, a couple of those songs are actually pretty good. And they're like, what'd you say? I'm like, no, I said they suck and they're dumb, And then they walk away. I'm like, yeah, but I actually admit this has got some good songs. So, like, I was kind of that's how I felt about this band. And then once I get to this album, my favorite song of all time of theirs is Still Waiting. Absolutely. It is my favorite song. And the riffing to this day, my buddy Jay used to be my buddy. He would like freaking rag on this band, and I would be like, dude, Still Waiting has some of the coolest like riffing in it that it's just so good. And then the Hell Song is awesome. And it's definitely got some other kinds of tracks in here that I really liked. Once again, it kind of did a little bit of this, like, we're trying to be punk and prove ourselves kind of stuff. But now it's a weird thing about this album. I found myself changing the song in my head the way I wanted the song to go, and it didn't go that way. And I freaking hate when that happens. Like, when I hear a chorus and I expect it to go into a higher part and change the melody a little bit, but instead they just kind of come back down and then repeat again. I was doing that when I was listening to this album, and it's the number one reason why I didn't rate it as high, because I found myself just like almost singing the choruses different in my own head, and saying, wow, that would have sounded so much better, but they went this way. And that's crazy to me because like, I'm not a self-proclaimed musical genius, but sometimes I can really hear where they just took a left when they should have took a right. And for me, this album's got some strong tracks. It's definitely got that beginning of that metal riffing going on. You can hear it. And it's the Things to Come album, and it definitely has a lot of kind of picks up where All Killer No Filler left off, but adds a little more balls to it, I guess you could say.
Pretty good assessment. Kyle, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with that. This is very much the album that showed really where the band would go after this. For the most part, there is definitely still more pop punk leanings in some of their later work, but this is really where you start to see they're bringing in those more aggressive guitar riffs. They're bringing in that pretty much all the skate punk is gone by the time we get to this album. It's very much less your like Blink 182 skate punk type pop punk, and more into, all right, we're done with this. we're going to get a little bit more aggressive with it, but they still manage to keep it fun. They keep that pop punk funness on a lot of the album, which I appreciate. You know, when I look at this album, I'm very much impressed with how far the sound came from All Killer No Filler when this one was only released a year later.
Yep.
That's pretty impressive. And to me, it just makes me wonder if this is kind of what they were wanting to do anyway. And maybe like a label was like, no, you should do this. Again, speculation. I have no idea. But the work after this would lead me to assume that that might not be too far off. In terms of the songs themselves, I mean, songs like the Hell song, Over My Head, My Direction, Still Waiting, though that first 4 songs is one of the best run of tracks on any pop punk album. What a way to start the album. But then Thanks for Nothing is a huge standout track for me. And while I'm surprised that they didn't go the route of having Thanks for Nothing be a single, because it's very similar to Fat Lip, has kind of the same vibe going on, I appreciate that they didn't do it, because it could have easily been a cop out, like, all right, we're going to follow the success of Fat Lip with Thanks for Nothing, and it would have probably done very well. So I appreciate that they didn't do that. Again, they continue their incredible single choice. As I said, most of my top songs were the singles that were released off of it. In terms of low points, I don't think there is one. I think it's a pretty great album all the way through. I have no complaints about it. If anything, I really enjoyed where they decided to take their sound. And yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at with it. Not a single bad song, and a second album in a row with no filler on it.
Yeah, I mean, we're all, dare I say it, we're all in unison here. It's like it's actually pretty funny. But in all seriousness, though, I mean, for me, you're talking about a year later. A year later, this album comes out from their debut album in 2002. And immediately you could definitely hear the sound changes. You could definitely hear the styles that they want to go in and how they're going to go in that direction at some point down the line in future albums. But I agree with both of you. Like, this was definitely a very quick, with still pop punk vibes in there, but definitely a very quick transition within a year of their first album coming out and having so much success from the singles and the popularity of the first album going into this one. You definitely hear, all right, you enjoyed that. Now we're going to go in this way. We're going this direction now. And it's going to be a little different, but we're going to go this way and we're going to chart our own path. Can I just point out that the album cover is freaky as hell, but it's actually so badass at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, it's frightening. It's like, for those of you who are listening to us, it's a guy. If you just look up Sum 41 Does This Look Infected, it's a guy cutting his head with like a knife. It's crazy. Little frightening. When I was going through it, I was like, oh my God. I was just staring at this thing on my phone. I'm like, okay.
It's the drummer, right? Is that the drummer?
Is it?
I think
That's
so.
all. Yeah, I was about to say I recognize his face, but yeah, I believe it's the drummer wearing, I don't know if he's
Wearing like
like
a mask. Yeah.
something weird. Yeah.
Mask or makeup or something. Yeah. But I mean, my standout tracks, honestly, are the first 4 songs, very similar to Kyle. Hell Song, Over My Head, Better Off Dead, My Direction, Still Waiting. And that's no slur to the rest of the album, because the rest of the album is pretty damn good as well. I mean, other than this, I mean, it sounds like, like I said, like a cop. Oh, let's go to the singles release because those are the best songs. Well, in this case, the best songs were the first. In my opinion, the best songs were the first 4 songs. I mean, the Hell Song, Over My Head, My Direction, is Still Waiting. I mean, come on, you cannot get any more of a badass opening on an album than that.
I actually didn't like My Direction, by the way. I just want to note as the villain.
Really?
I wanted to make sure I actually wanted to make sure I rained on your guys' parade, and not to do it on purpose, but
that makes sense, because it definitely is one of the more
yeah
pop punk sounding songs on here.
Yeah.
So if you didn't really vibe too much with All Killer No Filler, that's probably the closest they come on here to that sound.
Yeah, like and then middle I kind of was like and then like Mr. Amsterdam, Thanks for Nothing, Hyper Insomnia, Parachondroid, whatever the hell that freaking is. Sounds like something I freaking picked up disease or something over somewhere. But yeah, like it's literally that's where I kind of came back in and was like, cool, like it had a good finish. And but yeah, like I don't know, I wasn't a huge fan of that song. And it's just interesting because yeah, like Kyle said, it has like a little more of a pop punk thing, which I've never been a huge fan of. But if you combine pop punk with the right elements of other things, I won't get too burned out too quickly on that. That's big for me. I'm always a balanced kind of listener, you should say. So.
Thank you for stealing my thunder and basically summing up with everything that I was going to say, Mike. Thanks.
You're welcome, sir.
Just straight up. But the question is, gentlemen, where does This Look Infected rank on your Sum 41 list? Let's start with Mike. Where does this rank for you?
Man, this is number 2 for me. I mean, this is the pretty much. So if someone would ask me, hey, what albums have you heard of Sum 41? I would have to say All Killer No Filler or Does This Look Infected. That's it. I hadn't listened to one other album until this kind of career retrospective kind of like overlook of their albums. So like everything after this point, I mean Chuck, I knew of the song We're All to Blame, but I didn't ever listen to that album. And then everything else past that, I didn't even think they were still making music, to be honest with you. And obviously I looked into it and knew it, but yeah. So I'd have to say number 2. It's just it's nostalgic for me, more nostalgic than even the first album. In that I'd never listened to that album. I never owned it, but I did own this album. So that's number 2 has got to be there.
All right. Kyle, what do you got? Where does This Look Infected rank for you personally?
Oh, I am thrilled to say that me and Mike are in complete agreement on this. This is also my number 2. It is a step in the direction of a more mature sound than they had on the last one. And I think it's fantastic. I would definitely point, like Mike said, people ask, I want to hear Sum 41, like give me an album. This is probably one of the first ones I'm giving them. Excellent album, number 2.
See, after everything I just said, I absolutely have to disappoint all of you guys and put it. I'm just kidding. No. I got you so good. This is my number 2 as well, believe it or not. I was gonna. Don't worry. I was not gonna hate on. I was not gonna be the villain on that one. Don't worry. Sorry, everyone. No,
damn it.
I know. Sorry, Mike. Damn it. I know. But this is my number 2 as well. Just a solid record overall. You definitely saw based on everything we were saying as well. You see the transition points they're going to go to. You see where they're headed in their next album, which we're going to get to in a second. But that is my number 2 personally for me. Now let's jump over to their third album.
You guys hear that noise? That
What's
was everyone clicking off this video because All Killer No Filler and
not number 1.
Are you infected? Is this infected? Are not number 1 and number 2. I just I don't know what's going on. But
what's going on, everyone?
Stay tuned and hear the fun finale. It's worth it, guys. It's worth it. Play chicken.
Oh God. Well, on that note, we're gonna jump over to their third album, Chuck. So I'm gonna let Kyle go first because I want to hear his impressions on Chuck first. So impressions, title, track listing, whatever you got. Go ahead.
So this is the darkest album I think they've ever done in terms of just sound, lyrical content. When you put everything together, I think this is the darkest one. This is really where, no, they brought it back in the future, so I don't want to say that. But this album really dropped the pop punk for the most part. This is very much a heavier record, not to its, to a fault, I would say. I think that at this point, they hadn't perfected merging the two sounds So there's a lot of songs on here that just end up being forgettable, in my opinion. They don't hit the mark as much as songs from their previous releases. Don't get me wrong, there's still some great songs on here. I understand why the album came out the way it did, just the whole story behind everything. It's great. If you don't know the story, definitely recommend looking it up, reading about it. It's very interesting. But really, there's only like 2 or 3 songs on here. JT, if you want to go down to the track listing.
Yep.
I find most of them to be just kind of filler, but really, like Some Say, I love the song Some Say. That's by far my favorite song on this one. We're All to Blame is good. It's never been one of my favorites. I know it's like a fan favorite. Pieces, again, another fan favorite. It's okay. No Reason is pretty good. Other than that, the rest of the album just falls super flat for me. Pretty much almost all of it. There's only those, like the Angels with Dirty Faces, pretty good. There's like 4 or 5 songs I take away. The rest I never find myself coming back to. So this album kind of disappointed me, turned me, I don't want to say turned me off, but made me lose interest in the band for a couple of years after its release, unfortunately. But that's just me. So that's where I'm at with it.
Okay, Mike, what are some things tracks you like and overall impressions of the album as well?
It's interesting. When a band goes into more of a wheelhouse that I'm familiar with, and for me to like be less memorable as a song based album, but more phone goes off, more memorable overall as an entire album experience. And that's strange because a lot of people view an album as like singular tracks, like, hey, that track is memorable, that track is memorable, that track is memorable, blah, blah, blah. Like, I remember that one because of this. For me, so besides We're All to Blame, if you want to jump down to the track listing, that's okay. That's okay. I'll just come over to your house and assault you later. No, We're All to Blame. Some Say, great song. And even I may have accidentally listened to Newt's, whatever the hell Newt's is, but Newt's is actually a pretty good song. And that's on the international version or whatever. But
bonus tracks.
Yeah. No Reason, actually, I mean, No Reason was like a pop punk feeling, kind of like it kind of made me feel like we're gonna start this album this way because we know everything else after this is gonna kind of change things up. I mean, We're All to Blame is my second favorite Sum 41 song of all time. It's Still Waiting, We're All to Blame. I listened to those damn songs so many times, and like, in my eyes, that was the band's finest songwriting, with the riffing and then going into these choruses that have you singing, and then the rest of it, like I was saying, less like memorable songs like Bitter End, Open Your Eyes, Slipping Away. They're all very like, and for me, it was just an experience that I enjoyed as an album versus like singular song. And to me, that's just as good of an experience than it is to say, okay, I'm going to take these songs off and put them on a playlist, or I'm going to make a CD for somebody and recommend them. Some of them don't belong alone, they belong together. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, which is interesting, and I appreciate that. So it has its own quality to it that I appreciate as a heavy metal guy over a pop punk guy, and which elevates it for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is their third album. I'm just going, forgive me, I want to just catch up on what I was reading. After listening, full disclosure, after listening to this album, Chuck, I went back and I did read up on some of the story behind. I know we didn't really touch on it, but some of the story that was the album was based on, like the volunteer UN peacekeeper. I'm making sure I get my facts right here. But I was going back and listening to it, and after I was listening to it, I did read up a little bit on the story of it, and it is it is probably their, I would say, like their darkest record, if not like lyrically and stuff like that, for me at least, when I was going through all this. but we're all to blame. Some the singles that got released again, again, because I'm not super familiar with Sum 41, that I'm going to gravitate towards most of the singles as it is. But I do have to say though, for being as dark as it is, there's something about emotion in records and emotions in songs, regardless of, like, it could be heavy metal, it could be the most lighthearted pop song out there. If the song has emotion, or an album has emotion in it, that's something to me. And this, I got some of that vibe of, like, it being as heavy as it is, as being as the transitional we're going in that direction, like we just talked about after their previous album. But I gotta say, there's definitely some feeling on this record that I feel like, man, it's just like dark, and there's something that appealed to me about that personally, but that's just me. I know that you guys were, shared your thoughts as well on it, but for me personally, I was like, this is just something that really is, it's very emotional, very dark, but it's still got that very hard, metal riffs to it, and the feeling of it as well. But like I said, there's something about the feeling of it that made me put it where I put it in my ranking, for me personally, but because it hit me in a very, I guess, different way than most other people may have heard it, but that's just me. Yeah, and so the standout tracks for me, though, we're all to blame. Some say Pete, and again, pretty much just the singles that got released. But I mean, overall, I was kind of like, whoa, like almost taken back in a sense. I was like, wow, that's really, really, like, heavy, for lack of a better word. But the question is, gentlemen, where does Chuck rank amongst your Sum 41 albums? Let's do you mind if I start on this one?
Yeah.
Actually, I might be the villain on this one. I'm not sure though. Given what I just said about how dark it is, this is my number one. I was surprised when I put it there too. I was like, what? And then I listened to it more and more, and some of the story, the background behind the album's title got to me a little bit, but that's for me personally. This is my number one Sum 41 album. Me personally, because the reasons I listed in some of the track listing as well. Let's jump over to Mike. Where does this rank for you?
No, actually, I have a lot of respect for that choice because traditionally sounding, it has the aggression and emotion that an album needs to kind of make its point. And then on top of that, it doesn't seem like it's too overly concerned with making like a major commercial kind of like attempt at having that next big song or whatever. A lot of the songs are pretty balanced and more leaning towards like the aggression metal side and darker side. So for me, it's number 3. Once again, it's still it's the album after the album that I like the most, that I still, obviously listening to it now, still could hear the parts of Sum 41 that I preferred over the other side that I didn't prefer as much. So it's kind of like makes it higher on my list. Like I said, it's an experience of listening to the whole album versus just that one song or that song or memorable tracks or whatever. For me, yeah, We're All to Blame's second favorite song that they've ever done. And yeah, it just it's definitely up on my list.
All right, cool. And Kyle, where does yours rank?
You guys are gonna make me do it. You're gonna make me be the villain. So I do love some of the songs on here, and this is the third time in a row that they've had incredible single choices, which I think is the thing that follows throughout their whole career. I gotta put this one at number 7.
Whoa!
Least I know. This is where all the Sum 41 fans click off the video.
I'll turn my hat around.
This album just never stuck out to me. It never really caught my attention outside of a couple songs. A lot of the other ones are just very forgettable. And yeah, I will say it is better to listen to as a whole album. Like if outside of those like 3 or 4 songs I mentioned, maybe 4 or 5, if the other songs come on, like if I have it on shuffle, I'll turn most of them off because I'd rather hear their other stuff. I do also think that this album solidified where they were gonna go in the future. but I don't think it did it as well as some of the following albums did. So for that reason, number 7. Sorry, guys.
Oh man.
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah.
Told you I had some unpopular choices here.
It is what it is. Man.
it is what it is. It's okay. It's okay. We're all gonna. So someone's gonna be the villain tonight, and we're not sure who it is yet, but we'll see.
Well, it's not Mike.
And we'll notice that in this thing it says this is the last album to feature guitarist Dave. Is it Backish? Is that his name? Backish.
Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah, basically, I want that to be foreshadowing for me. I don't want to leave it at that, but yes, that's okay, Kyle. You're the enemy. You're the villain now, but my friend. Later on, I will get my revenge on you.
Well, let's see.
I'm just a fan base villain at this point.
That's okay.
Straight up, he's like just ripping everyone apart. Oh my god!
Chuck is a very popular album.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's jump to their next album now, which is Sum 41's Underclass Hero.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy, Mike, you go first.
You're gonna make me go first. What are you doing? This album is one big freaking ripoff. And it rips off so many albums and songs. It is insane. I sat there listening to this thing, and literally I could pick 5 or 6 different bands' songs that this freaking album ripped off, from Green Day to Blink 182 to freaking, to Sum 41's previous songs that they released. It literally used the same vocal pattern, the same vocal chorus, the same guitar part. I mean, it was outstanding how many of these songs sound the same and have this almost reuse the same vocal parts. It was mind-boggling. I was listening to this album, and to be honest with you, it's actually, so it's not, the songs aren't bad songs in the sense of keeping you interested, but it's like watching a show and then you look behind the curtain and you realize there's just nothing going on back there except just loud noises and lights. You know what I mean? It's you see that the process they're going through, it just reuses and regurgitates the same thing over and over again. And I was so shocked when I was listening to this album that I was just I don't even know how to rate it, because I almost feel like it belongs to other bands. You know what I mean? It almost belongs to this song belongs to that band's vocal pattern. Adam's song by Blink 182. I literally hum that alongside of one of the first tracks to this song. You literally can go alongside that song, and it only changes a couple notes to make it not be a freaking lawyer's wet dream. You know what I mean? And it's literally, it was so disappointing, and I just was like, what happened? They were just, it almost feels, it almost feels like, what's going on with our band right now? People need to be reminded of that we're as good as these pop punk legends out there, and we put out this major album. Let's just try to sum up everybody's top songs in one album. And as I listened to it, I read a review on it. They have 3 or 4 different songs that literally sound like Green Day songs, or this song or that song, and people were upset about it, and I didn't even read the review before I realized this, and I was just dude, they nailed it on the head. So it's yeah, I don't want to give away how I feel about this album, so this still could be number 1. I just wanted to make sure.
I didn't give it away.
This is number 1.
Yeah, maybe I'm just blowing smoke, but yeah, how do you guys feel?
Well, on that note, Kyle, how do you feel about this album?
Oh man, Mike, that was hysterical. So I love this album. Big shock that the guy whose favorite band of all time is Green Day absolutely adores this album. This album is, since I think Mike gave away his thoughts on the album, I'll just give away mine here. This is the last perfect front to back Sum 41 album they've ever done. I adore this album. There's not a single bad song on here. yes, there is definitely, I'll agree with you, Mike. There is definitely some songs that you're like, yeah, that's definitely some, you could hear other artists' influence on them. I think this was a conscious turn away from that heavier, darker sound to go back to that happier times. But this is one of the big three albums of the mid 2000s for me, in terms of we're talking like pop punk / emo. First one being American Idiot, then My Chemical Romance's Black Parade, and then this one, Underclass Hero. I think all three of those albums I would put as like the big three albums of the time. They all did something very, whether or not intentionally like a rock opera, very much connected song wise, front to back. This album, incredible. He had, Secret Service knocking on his door for March of the Dogs. Great. I love the French song on there. Actually speaking French and knowing French, that is a hysterical song. It is not appropriate for work. Don't look it up. But yeah, no, I love this. Every song front to back. And it's one that I never get tired of hearing. Songs like Underclass Hero and Walking Disaster are what a way to start the album. But even the ballads on here, which is something that we don't really get on many other albums for the most part, like With Me, So Long Goodbye, incredible songs. Confusion and Frustration in Modern Times. Mike, is that one of the Green Day sounding ones that you were thinking of? Yeah.
Sure.
I love that one. So I mean, I think it really comes down to, this is a very polarizing album. I will say that's me and Mike having these reactions is very much reminiscent of the actual fan reception of this. There's two types of Sum 41 fans. There's your pop punk Sum 41 fans, and then there's your heavier Sum 41 fans. And how you feel about this album really depends on where you fall in line with that. For me, I personally fall into more of the pop punk sound. I do really like their metal aspects, but I don't think that as a full album that they've done that one as perfectly as they've done a pop punk album. So for me, this album is what I want to hear from them after. Plus, this is just very nostalgic for me. This was a very much like late middle school, early high school album for me. So I have very fond memories of it, which could be tainting my judgment of it, I'll be honest. But every time I hear it now, it still brings me back to like the good old days back then. I find nothing wrong with this album. I disagree with you, Mike. This is one of the best albums there is.
But the problem with it is, I was already done listening to the songs that they used to remake this album. I had already
Doesn't matter. They made them even better on here.
I already heard all those songs, and then when I'm humming one of those songs alongside the song, I'm like, the hell, no.
I will say the one thing is most of the songs on this album are all in the same key, which is why a lot of them sound very similar. Is they are most of them in the same exact key.
Yeah, and that also makes the singer, when he writes his choruses and his vocal patterns, his vocal harmonies, feel very almost just like lack of diversity. Like it just feels like don't fix it if it ain't broke. Like, I'm just gonna do this again because it's catchy. And like the problem with that is, though, it is catchy, but it just like, I actually just did a little experiment where I was just skipping through the songs at a fast pace and like trying to just hear a brief clip of something, and I was just like, it all sounded the same. It literally all sounded like I could have just fused them into one big song, and I would have been like, never ended. It didn't.
AKA the album. Isn't that just what an album is, Mike? Come on.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yes, but I mean, if I were to take out the beginning and take out the, put it in the middle chorus and then fuse it to the next chorus and then the next chorus and then the next chorus, I would be listening to one just long chorus of the original song. Like, it literally felt like that. I swear to God, it was crazy.
I love the sound of this album. I think production wise, it's also my favorite. I really like the style of production on here, and just the themes of the album. These are like the lyrical themes that I prefer in music, and I feel like this is really the only album that we get this on from them. A lot of their other stuff is not, I don't want to say it's not the best lyrics, but a lot of their other stuff is either earlier in their career more stereotypical pop punk lyrics, or just darker lyrics, or once we get to later in their career, there's some pretty cringy lyrics in there, but we'll get to that when we get there. But yeah, this by far one of my favorite pop punk albums of all time. But I will say Dave's I can't see what that says, Mike, but I will say
It's
that,
backwards. Damn it.
Dave's absence is definitely noticeable on the album. Really lacks, those guitar solos that he brought to the band.
I was trying to
JT,
get.
where are you at?
Yeah, JT, where you at? I don't know if that shows up. Damn it.
Oh, was that a 7, Mike?
Mike.
It was coming up while you were talking.
Sorry, I saw it too. Well, it was a strong departure from.
Shut up, JT. No, I'm just kidding.
No, damn it, it's my show. No, no. Honestly, though, for me personally, I'm gonna be the in between person here.
You are literally in between us right
I'm
now.
literally this makes it even better. This makes it even better. I'm literally in between both of you guys right now. That's what she said. Anyways, so this is why I love doing our show. Anyways, so I personally really enjoyed this album quite a bit. Going from like the dark.
Yeah, take that, Mike.
All you see is a fist come up.
Wait, hold on. I'm not done. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah, Kyle.
I was. I'm just collapsing. For those who are listening to us, I'm really sorry. But but I have to say, this Underclass Hero, definitely a fantastic pop punk sound, fantastic pop punk. I can't even talk anymore. Pop punk record. I will say that the one thing about it that kind of threw me off a little bit was it was coming off of Chuck. That's what
made it so good.
No. I know. I didn't finish,
Chuck
guys.
was the worst.
I didn't finish what I was talking about. Listen, coming off of Chuck, yes. What a like dark record, and this was back to when this brought it back to me. Brought it back to when I'm gonna get yelled at in about 3 seconds. But when pop punk, when they brought it back to pop punk, like quote unquote fun pop punk. There wasn't too much like, darkness or like I killed my mother, or I'm not saying that's a lyrical theme in general, but I'm just saying, there wasn't anything dark like that on there. You know what I mean? This is a very solid, fun. Mike's gonna kill me. There's a solid, fun pop punk record that I actually truly enjoyed quite a bit. However, I gave my number 1 already, but I'm curious to see where you guys go for your. I think we all know where we are at this point, but I'm gonna say I'll go first. I gave this at number 4.
Did
you just dab on camera?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, bring it back, man. Bring it back.
I dab it out. That's it. Bring it back. Yes.
This is we're dabbing. We're doing.
We're falling apart here.
Yes.
What has Underclass Hero done to us?
Underclass Hero has successfully brought the Super Review Show's career retrospective panel to a new level of humiliation and fun. This is my number 4. I love it. I was surprised how much I loved it, but I had to put the other 2. I had to put I can't even talk anymore. I'm gonna laugh my ass off at some point. All Killer No Filler was number 3, and I'm gonna put it at number 4. Yes, that's my list so far. Someone help me out here before I go start laughing even more.
This may surprise some people. This is my number 7. Nah. This is by far my number 1. It is a perfect album.
Oh,
They can
man.
make all their albums sound like this, and I would be so happy.
You gave it away by having it as your background, Kyle. Damn it.
That's
man.
okay.
Yes.
I couldn't find this logo without the album title on it.
I hear you. I hear you.
Oh my god. So I was at number 4. Kyle's the number 1. Mike, where
Number
are you
one.
at with this? This is number 1.
Number
right?
one. That's a one. That's like a
number
one to
7.
me.
Boys, take away the H, add a Z. This is my number 1 plus 6. It is the 7th. It is the 7th album of the 7 albums of. There still is a unreleased or unannounced album, Heaven and Hell. Apparently, is that what?
Oh, I'm so excited for that one. Yeah, the double album.
So this album technically could be 8 out of beat. I just want you to. I want to leave more room for. I want to leave more room for the bottom. I don't want to sell out to 7. I want to leave it room for 8. So I'm gonna put 7 question mark.
Mike, Heaven and Hell is a double album. The first half of it's gonna be all pop punk, so you might be surprised.
I know. I want to leave more room for the bottom, bro. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to be like it's a 7 because it could be an 8. So I'm gonna say 7 question mark. The asterisk. There you go. 7 asterisk. There you go.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
That's
Oh
it.
my
I'm
God.
leaving.
I'm leaving. Pack your and get
Now
out.
Kyle has vanished from the stream. You can't even see him because he is wearing a black shirt on his black background. He's in disguise now. Oh my god!
I know. I wish.
Oh,
no, we can't get you the floating hat. Floating hat.
we literally have 3 more albums to go, guys.
Woo! Woo!
All right, we got this.
All right. Just take it back. Take a breather. Underclass Hero is one of the best albums of 2007.
Of all time.
Boo you!
Of all
Boo
time.
that man who said that. Boo him.
Of all time. One of the big 3 ambitious albums of the mid 2000s.
That is
yeah.
incorrect, sir. I will fight you. All right.
All right, kids. Listen, you youngins.
I knew this going into it. I said when we first were talking about this, I said Mike is gonna hate my favorite album, and I knew it. I called it.
I know it.
Oh god. Well, anyways,
perfect.
let's. I can't even talk. Let's jump over to "Screaming Bloody Murder" from 2011, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Oh god, I can't even. I'm gonna just.
Do we have to? Can we just keep talking about Underclass Hero?
I'm just getting
Well, we
closer and
could,
closer to my camera.
Let's start off with Kyle on this one. "Screaming Bloody Murder." I know we just
Moira.
talked a lot about Underclass Hero, but "Screaming Bloody Murder." How is the follow-up to that in your
4
eyes?
years too. 4 years,
Yeah.
which is
4
you're
years
right, yeah.
to turn this thing out. Jesus. What a disappointment. What a disappointment after that last album. That's not to say this album doesn't have some great songs on it, because it does. But this album really has what I call the Pinkerton effect. Same thing with Weezer's Pinkerton. Nobody liked this album when it came out. I remember when this came out, everyone was like, this is garbage. Everyone. And then all of a sudden, a few years ago, people have decided that this is a top tier Sum 41 album and it's underappreciated and blah, blah, blah. It's not great. Like, let's be real. Again, it's a dark album. This is the equivalent thematically and what feels like exactly how I felt from Does This Look Infected to Chuck. To me, it's the exact same thing, Underclass Hero to this. It's such a big quality drop and thematic change that it just really threw me off. And this is the second time in their career that I got kind of distanced from the band. It happened to me after Chuck for a little bit, and then Underclass Hero brought me back in. This is the second time that it really happened, a lot because there was a very large gap between this one and the next one. Yeah. So this one didn't really keep my attention. So really it took almost a decade for me to get another Sum 41 album that I thoroughly really enjoyed. So I kind of fell off a little bit during this era of the band. But I mean, songs like Screaming Bloody Murder, fantastic. It's the name of the song, so YouTube don't crack down. But Scumfuck, great song, incredible song, one of the top tier. And What Am I to Say is incredibly well done, incredibly well written. And I know it's a very popular thing in the Sum 41 fan base to really love the Dark Road Out of Hell trilogy there. I hate it. I don't think it's well done at all. I think it was even stupider of them to put them as 3 separate songs. I don't know if that was a label choice. I don't know if that was their choice. But none of the songs work at all without the others. Crash is great, but after Crash, I lose it completely. After Crash, I could care less about the album. Really, this could have been a like 5 or 6 song EP, and I would have thoroughly enjoyed it. Not a huge fan of this. This very much comes off as the Avril Lavigne divorce record. And yeah, that's where I'm at with it. Very very big letdown, but has some very good songs on it. Particularly in the beginning. It was really when I got to that Dark Road Out of Hell trilogy that just really, really killed it for me.
Oh God, Mike, are you gonna save us or no?
Okay, so it's kind of funny, Kyle. 2 songs that you mentioned you really loved. Those are my least favorite songs.
Of course, I mean,
and,
naturally.
and it's so weird. Which 2? I'm gonna let you guys guess here for the sake of.
You probably didn't like What Am I to Say?
I didn't like Scumfuck, and I hated Crash. I mean, 5.5.
Crash, I will say, Crash was not one of my top of the album.
Yeah,
I will say it's just the one like redeeming song after What Am I to Say? Everything else, I'm very much distanced.
Crash and that one are literally 5s, if not 4. And then my standout tracks are Time for You to Go. It actually kind of reminded me of what?
That's a good one. I do like that one.
It kind of reminded me of Stone Temple Pilots, actually, weirdly enough. And then also Jessica Kill. I actually really liked that song. Can't agree with you more. 7, 8, 9, Holy Images of Lies, Sick of Everyone. They literally are just kind of there. They do some things. They get to a point where you're like, okay, you made your point now after all this, and then they kind of go back down to nothing. And it's just like you said, they wouldn't be good without the other. But even with the others, they're mostly forgettable. And then the rest of that album is literally like, it started so good in the beginning, and then everything after that is an absolute it's so confused.
It could have been a great 6-song EP. If they went from tracks 1 through 6, it would have been great. And just ended
ended it there and just said, like, we came out after all this time to just basically put this kind of idea. We're working the kinks out of our ability to write music, and we really messed up with Underclass Zero, and basically maybe we're trying to redeem our jabbing you, but all right. But maybe we're trying to get our songwriting going, and we're getting ready for the future of like our sound, which I think has definitely improved after this. So this was a mess. I'm just gonna call it. Put me down for a mess.
I agree. And while we're talking about certain songs, Baby You Don't Want to Know sounds like it would have been in a car commercial like 10, 15 years ago. Has very much that what song used to be everywhere? It was like Are You Gonna Be My Girl? Was in all those commercials. Has that same exact sound to it. Doesn't sound like anything the band would put out, and it just really threw me off.
Yeah, a lot of that in this album is like, we're gonna try to go for a new sound. Like even Time for You to Go, I liked the song.
That one worked.
I just felt it didn't feel like Sum 41. It felt like a band who was just trying to explore their sound. And sometimes that's good, but also other times it makes you self-aware, or you're aware of their struggle to like define themselves, especially when they don't continue on that journey. They completely go back to like a perfect marriage of the pop punk metal thing, which is what's to come. In this album, it feels very like we're searching for that sound, and we're trying to we use lots of piano parts randomly, that because using piano means you're a matured band. Remember, guys, if you use a piano, like kind of like almost Beatles-esque, you're a mature band, and it's a natural evolution of sound.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean that's but it was just funny how they just that piano would come out. I'm like, oh my god, here comes the piano again. Like you're trying to give us a tender moment where you get quiet with your voice, and I'm supposed to be captivated by that. It just comes off like a failed attempt at doing that. So yeah, this is definitely not. This is a mess. Let's just call that again.
So I love that. No, I really did not love this record.
Number one.
It was the number 1.5. What the hell happened here? For lack of a better word. I do agree with Kyle though. You guys hit it on the nail on the head, so I'm not going to repeat too much. But I will say the first 6 songs, I agree with Kyle, should have just been like an EP. Hey, we're going to put out a couple songs here, and that's going to be that. Part 1, 2, and 3 of A Dark Road Out of Hell. For some reason, every time I look at it and every time I heard it, I was like, is this Bad Out of Hell like 1, 2, and 3 albums? Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening here? Like, I was like, what? That's what I thought of. But yeah, this was like track 7 through 14, which is rough. I mean, yeah, there's no other way of putting it. But like, I do agree though. If they put it as an EP though, like Kyle said, of the first 6 songs, no problem. I mean, it would have been might have been received better by fans as well. Because I mean, I don't remember, of course, but I mean, Kyle would remember because when it first came out, like, weren't people like, "Oh, this just sucks"?
I remember.
Yeah,
because I was looking forward to this so much. Because it was years after Underclass Hero, I was like, "Wow, this is gonna be so good." And then I heard it, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And don't let people fool you what they say now, because at the time I didn't know a single person, and I didn't see a single person on the internet say anything positive about this album. Everyone was talking about how disappointing it was and how bad it was. It wasn't until a couple of years ago that everyone started to say, "This is top tier Sum 41. What a great album." Pinkerton effect.
yeah.
Pinkerton also sucks if we're getting honest.
Two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
It's like God. one fan exists who's still listening. Pinkerton sucks, he leaves. All right, good.
Or like same deal. Has like those diehard fans that are like, "This is the best thing they've done." I'm like, no, it's not. Get real. It's not. There's a reason people didn't like it when it first came out. It's still not good.
I mean, you said it, not me.
Take that to the bank.
Take that to the bank. Hell yeah, man. Cash that check, man. Cash it. I'm cracking myself up at this point. But I mean, yeah, like the first 6 songs are, and then after that, it's like, what happens? I don't need to say any more because I mean, I think that the two of them just went off on it enough at that point. The question is though, where does this rank as your? I know it's Mike's number 1 clearly, but like, he's like, oh wait a second, no. But the question is, where does this rank amongst your Sum 41 albums? I'm gonna let Mike go first.
Yeah, I mean, this is 6 out of 7. I mean, it's just even the good songs are pale in comparison to the actual good songs. Like rating it as an album of listenable music, it like even its good songs are like cool. Like there's no 10s on the album. It's just pretty much like it's pretty much just like this is the best thing they're gonna give us out of a lot of fluff and a lot of like confusion. And I mean the fact that Dave Backish isn't in the band, you can tell the riffs lack that metallic, kind of cut. There's just they have no body to them. They're very kind of just power chord, and just kind of like there's a little kind of technicality on it, but it seems like somebody doing their best impersonation and failing miserably. So yeah, it just lacks that body, lacks that spirit, lacks direction, lacks identity. Yeah, just like it's on the playground with Underclass Hero, and they're both sitting on that seesaw, going like this, and they're just like, "Hey guys, let's just continue to do this kind of type of music." And I'm just like, Yeah, man. Sorry, Kyle. Kyle, I'm
Like,
sorry, man.
like, I don't know how you
I'm
can say this is
sorry.
better than the masterpiece that is Underclass Hero.
The master. Oh, I mean, I have no words for that. I'll have no words for it, you know.
Disappointment.
That's no point. Funny.
Well, Mike,
Poor JT. And he's just
you know,
you're in
Mike, I'll say I agree. This is number 6.
the
This
yeah.
is
There you go.
coming off of the
Wow.
masterpiece that we've talked about of
Oh,
Underclass
man.
Hero, their best album. This is such a disappointment. It's unfocused. The only reason I put it above Chuck is that I like this hits higher highs than Chuck did for me. Like the good songs on Chuck are very good, but there were only about like 3 and then a couple others that I thought were okay. This one, those first 6 tracks, I thoroughly enjoyed, and then it just went off the rails. So I gotta put it above Chuck a little bit.
Oh boy.
JT.
Well,
JT.
7. This is my number 7.
JT
I'm-
Tizzle.
If only I could flash back to my younger self, and not only would I have a CD of it when it first came out in 2011, but I would take that CD after listening to it once and just throw it under the bus because that's what we need to do to it. So just saying.
I will also just say that
Yeah.
this is the start of them having absolutely horrendous album covers all of a sudden.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
They have not had a good album cover since Underclass Hero.
Mhm.
I don't know what the hell is going on this album cover.
It looks like a pregnant woman, but she's like, I don't even know.
Yeah, I've never been able to fully figure it out. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just my eyes. I don't know. Also, the font across it like that has always bothered me. Also, the way they say Sum 41 presents, like it was going to be this big masterpiece. Like this was supposed to be like their American Idiot or something, and it's just kind of like this.
This is our 21st century breakdown, guys. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Oh,
Bad.
God.
Sad.
Better yet, it's our Dookie. Oh, wait, it actually is Dookie.
Bad album. Bad album. Bad. Let's move on.
Sorry. All right. Anyways, that was great. That was great. Anyways, 13 Voices from 2016 on October. This came out the same day as Revolution Radio, bro.
Yes, it did.
I didn't realize that until now. Wow.
Yep.
Anyways, 13 Voices. Who wants to go first?
I could take this one first.
All right, go ahead.
So, after the train wreck that was Screaming Bloody Murder, I didn't know where I stood with the band anymore. I thought that maybe they hit their peak and they were just kind of coasting. But, this is the longest they've gone between albums. But then I found out, oh, Dave's coming back. And I was pumped because that's really what I thought was missing from what could have made Screaming Bloody Murder actually a good album, is because you could tell they were going for that heavier sound, but I don't think they knew how to fully do it without him. And I think that if he was there, we could have had a more focused project at the end. That's what we got here. This is very much back to there. And this is where I think that they finally put the pieces together and really merged the two sounds of pop punk and their heavier metal aspects. I don't want to say perfectly because there is some filler on here. In my opinion, there's some songs that I don't really go back to as much. But as far as redeeming themselves go, I thought they did a great job. I was super impressed when the first song came out. I believe it was Fake My Own Death. I think it was the lead single from here.
It says War, but I'm not sure.
I don't think, no, War wasn't the lead single. War was a single.
All right, sorry. Go ahead.
Pretty sure it's Fake My Own Death. It's either that or Goddamn I'm Dead Again. I'm pretty sure it's Fake My Own Death. Either way, it was a heavy song. I was like, wow, this is what I've wanted for a while. And this is for the first time in nearly a decade. I was back on board 100% with the Sum 41 train. And yeah, I mean, Goddamn I'm Dead Again, Fake My Own Death, God Save Us All. Plenty of great songs on here. only songs I think like Breaking the Chain and Twisted by Design, not really into very much. I do wish the album was a little bit longer. That's just nitpicking at this point. Really great album. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Mike, I'll let you go now.
Okay, you just named my two favorite songs, by the way, Twisted by Design and Breaking
Oh,
the Chain.
no.
It's hilarious, which is freaking hilarious. It always works that way. Like, I feel like now we know what our favorite things are. It's kind of a cheat. It's like, I hate this. Kyle loves it, you know? Like, I mean, that it. I don't know why I just turned into a like 1800s like prospector for gold in like, I don't know, San Francisco. But yeah, like literally, amazing album. I mean, awesome album. Like, I was shocked at how good this was. Breaking the Chain was like one of my favorite songs. Like, I mean, like it's top 3 or top 4 of their discography. And I just heard it like in the last. I mean, I heard it when it first came out because I remember Kyle actually talking to me about this album. We were kind of discussing this album, but I don't ever think I really let it sink in. I kind of heard it and was like, cool, an album that like actually is heavy and like also goes into like some of those pop punk kind of like, you know, like kind of just typical sounding parts, but it never stays too long with its sound. It does it and then it just like it switches when it needs to switch. And you guys have always heard me say, if there's one thing I love in music is when it's a band who knows how to change gears and not just beat something to death. And that's something this album did very well. Standout tracks, Breaking the Chain, God Save Us All. I love that opening with that kind of almost like it's like that Sweet Child of Mine-esque type of like, you know, kind of guitar sound in the background. You know, Fake My Own Death, great song. Even 13 Voices, which was a kind of a strange song for me, wasn't the greatest song. Like, you know, usually that's like JT's favorite song is the one that the album's named after, but
Yeah, you, Mike.
had to lay the hit in. You know, a lot of these songs kind of reminded me of what's their faces? Offspring. You know, it's actually kind of interesting. I've heard that Offspring kind of sound on one of the other albums. I forgot which one it might have actually been. It might even be the next one we're going to discuss, plus some of one of the previous, not the previous one, but like I could hear the Offspring. I love Offspring. Oh man, my chord's popping out here. Okay.
It wasn't Underclass Hero you heard it on?
No. My ears, like, you ever see a boxer when they're hit in the ears and their ears kind of close? My ears like physically did that. Like a cauliflower ear. I had like Underclass Zero ear, like my like it closed down like a clamshell. Yeah, like I can see the look on JC's face right now. He's just like, you guys and you're more on freaking albums. But no, this album, I mean, I actually want to listen to this one a couple more times because across the freaking board, it literally had me like actually like surprised that it was Sum 41 putting out this album and not, you know, just like another band who kind of found that perfect marriage of the sounds without selling out too much to one side or the other. And I mean, Dave Back's back in the band. I mean, the Brown sound has reclaimed the throne, you know. So that's it, man.
Is it my turn or no?
No, it's your freaking turn, bro. You're the ice cream in the sandwich here, bro, and you need to deliver here, okay?
Oh, God. When you put it like that, it's like no pressure, right?
No pressure. No pressure. Just everything
this
in
album
your life
sucks. No, I'm just kidding.
Everything in your life culminates to this point.
No. This album was absolutely trash. I thought, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, everyone. Just kidding. Don't choke me yet. No. I truthfully, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. And it's funny, Mike said like, oh, what this like I'm a title track sucker, you know, like because Revolution Radio or 21st Century, whatever, right? 13 Voices, I gotta tell you, it was the first title track I ever heard that actually I liked, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I would. You know what I mean? So that's just where I was at with that. My other standout tracks for me personally are Fake Man Death War, God Save Us All, and also truthfully, Twisted by Design was pretty damn good, I gotta admit. That's me personally. That was just my couple of my standout tracks. And I mean, based on everything, and just out of curiosity, Kyle, why didn't they include Better Days or Black Eyes as the rest of the album? Why
They're
they
just bonus track. That's it.
they were just bonus tracks? Like they did, but they didn't want to put them on, or no?
No, they were just Target edition bonus tracks. Pretty sure it's for Target.
Okay.
Back when bands were doing that for different stores.
All right.
I didn't think I listened to those ones. I don't know if I did. I think I stopped at Twisted Design. Was I supposed to listen to more?
No, they're all right. I think that they were personally. I think the album's better off without them.
Okay.
They're,
I just wasn't
they're
sure.
pretty middle of the road songs, in my opinion.
So I love them.
Yeah, Mike's probably gonna be like, "Why didn't they put those on there?"
Those are the best things since Mozart.
They should have put the Acoustic War on as the closer too. Damn it! No.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. War was in like the bottom of the tracks for me.
Okay.
I don't know something about it. I was never huge into that song, but yet there's 3 different versions of it.
Yeah,
There Will Be Blood was my one of my lower favorites. I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I was gonna say because like you're right though. There's War regular edition. There's War acoustic edition, and then there's War featuring Taka of One OK Rock, a Japanese band.
rock band.
I just don't know how you guys didn't like Breaking the Chain. That song, it reminds me so much of Offspring. And that chorus is just so catchy, man. Like
I didn't say I didn't like
it. Is the chorus is the only part. I don't dislike it. To me, it's just more like filler, middle of the road, like Like it's the chorus to me is really the only part of it that catches me. The rest of it just kind of falls flat.
I love the intro and the chorus. The intro is it has just a cool,
Mike, if it makes you feel any better, that was middle of the road plus for me.
Okay.
It's like a B minus, C plus.
It was like a B, exactly like a B minus, like a C plus plus.
Yeah, wasn't it?
It was good, but it wasn't like that good. But no, I'm just kidding. But overall, I mean, solid record overall. But the question is, guys, where does it rank amongst your some 41 albums? Who wants to go first?
Mike, why don't you take that one?
I'm gonna have to give it the number 1 spot. All you Sum 41 fans, come at me.
Unpopular opinion.
All you Sum 41 fans, come at me. My address. What's your address, JT?
It's disclosed.
Go to JT's house, slash his tires, and freaking throw a brick through his window that says like, death to JT and his family. Like, no. But no, don't do that. Cancel that, guys.
I think we just got darker than was it darker than Chuck.
Darker than Chuck. Yeah, this is my number 1. I'll be honest with you. What I love about this album is that it has a maturity and a songwriting that goes throughout the whole album. And the reason why I didn't put their previous albums as number 1 is because it took those albums and the time that it took to like understand songwriting and music and a good equation to get to this album, which I think is an interesting thing. You think, oh well, no, once you give the one that or the origin of it, it's like, the original it missed some pieces, but it had some great pieces that would lead to this point. So it's like a lot of people have it backwards. They want to give the thing that started at number 1, but in reality it's like sometimes better music is coming out today, and that's a very unpopular opinion because a lot of people think all the old stuff is better, which most of the time it's right, but there's other times in this moment that it's not, and just the way it is.
That was Mike's. What about Kyle? Where does it stand? Where does 13 Voices rank for you?
So for me, it does have a little bit of filler on it. Overall, I do think it's a really solid album. I hate the album cover. the album cover looks like a early 2000s tramp stamp, but I'm not going to hold that against it. Not holding that against it.
It looks literally like every tattoo guy who you went into the shop and he's like, "What do you want?" And you're like, "Look at that!" And you point at the book, and it's like some 41's album,
like an Ed Hardy shirt, like an early 2000s Ed Hardy shirt. Yep.
That and the print was off, like it wasn't directly in the middle of the shirt. It was like kind of off, and you're like, "Did this get
off
printed
with
like
that with like some random like swirls going on the other side of the shirt?"
Yeah, on this side, just one side, and the other side not yet. Perfect.
I will say I do legitimately think that this, because this is the current lineup of the band they have, this I think is their best lineup. I think hands down, consistency wise and talent wise, I think this is the best lineup they've had. But for me, I gotta put it at number 5. It's not a bad album. There's a couple things on it that I, not the biggest fan of. There's some like middle of the road songs that I kind of find myself skipping a lot. Don't find myself coming back to it outside of the few really good songs on it very often. So number 5.
And more importantly is that this was the first album to leave their record label and head to Hopeless Records, which is an independent label, which I feel fueled that freedom to do what they want versus like having that kind of like record label kind of, like that monkey on your back kind of situation. And it's just, I think that freedom to just do what they want to do. And, in this day and age with everybody kickstarting and funding their own albums, they might take more risks or do something that they feel is more relevant to them than have that pressure to like pump out that pop punk, top hit that's going to try to claim their old days. And everyone's trying to do that, trying to race their former self and trying to win that battle. And it's like, got to find who you are now, not who you used to be.
Yep, agreed.
Absolutely. Personally, I as great as it is, and because of some of the filler tracks, I put it just one below Kyle. I put it number 6. That's me though, personally. I'm not saying it's a bad record. I'm not saying it's bad at all. But the some of the filler was like, Mike is like, it's terrible.
You just look over. I'm just punching the air, like all aggressive.
He's punching his webcam. He's
maybe
like,
if you respected Underclass Hero more.
Yeah, like I know the checks in the mail, Kyle. I know you paid off JT, so
oh god.
Me and JT had a separate chat going. We were like, "Hey, Frank is really low. I know Mike's gonna hate Underclass Hero."
Yeah, here's $100. Do what you gotta do. All right.
He's like, here's half my salary. You just do this.
My salary. Exactly.
This is my number 6. It is very good for what it is. It doesn't hold it's not quite up to par with what I thought it would be, but overall I didn't like it overall. That's just me. Let's jump over to their most recent album, because there's one coming out soon, but we can't actually comment on it because it hasn't come out yet. But let's talk about Order and Decline. Kyle, I'm preaching your gospel here. Can you tell me about Order and Decline? Overall stuff for it.
Yeah, I can tell you that they need to get off this kick of just black background with random thing on it for their album covers.
I agree.
Legitimately thought it was a joke at first. Great album. Let's just skip to that.
Yeah.
Really, I think it built even more on 13 Voices, where they still brought the cohesiveness of those two sounds together. Great. Less filler on it. To me, there's only one filler song on here that I didn't care too much for, which was Heads Will Roll. Kind of could do without it, especially the acoustic version. I don't know why we needed an acoustic version of that song of all things, but I digress. The rest of it, incredibly well done, very aggressive, has political undertones, which again, didn't really see that very much since Underclass Hero. But whereas Underclass Hero was a little more, wasn't like clever, but at least it was a little less in your face and heavy handed. Like this one, I mean, 45 just an anti-Trump song, which a lot of songs on here are, but it's the way that they go about the lyrics that are a little kind of cringy at times. Like a 45 has the lyrics, "I know a bad man when I see his face." Like, come on, it's not a good lyric. And
God.
that's the chorus. That's the chorus of the song. Overall, though, really, really, really good album. I very much enjoy it. I enjoyed revisiting it for this discussion. I actually hadn't listened to it in about a year or two now. But with that said, I don't think it's as good as their, earlier work. I do think that while I do put that out there, that this is their strongest lineup as a band, I think they've yet to hit that perfect album again. In my opinion, they haven't had a perfect album since Underclass Hero. I think that I think they definitely have the potential to do it again. This was pretty close to being in there at the top, my top 3, but ultimately was edged out by the others. So for me, I thoroughly enjoyed this. It was able to get emotional at times. For me, I think it was the lyrical content that drove it down a bit, just because it was so not clever, and it was just so, there's no subtlety at all in a lot of them, but very well done. I enjoyed it.
What number was it? Oh, you didn't rate it yet.
I didn't read it yet.
No.
Okay, I thought you almost did that. You said that. I was like getting ready to say it, and you like backed off.
It's his number 1. No, I'm just kidding.
You know what?
Mike, what do you got?
I'm kind of confused. It says all tracks written by Derek Whitley. Like, is that? I guess
That's been most of the albums, though.
Is it really? Like,
Yeah.
in fact, hasn't written anything like from even the previous album.
It doesn't seem like it. He
That's weird.
occasionally
I
has
thought,
a writing credit.
yeah, that's weird. I always thought he wrote all of the riffs, which is strange because once he comes into the band, the riffs change. Is it all just an illusion? Is like Derek like, I can do what I want, and then like Dave joins like, I gotta change my style and really put his guitar work, because the guy's got excellent chops at guitar, and it just seems like I'm just like, can we go back to the previous album for tracks written? I know this is on expected, and just curious because now it kind of changes my understanding of, yeah, wow, interesting. It's just so strange. It's so like Dave's back in the band, metal. Dave's leaving, no metal.
Maybe it was like, it's just like, other than songwriting, maybe it's more like just the vibe and just overall input of where they want to go as a band.
I could probably be able to pull off the music without
that too
doing it, because I'm sure Derek can't handle that,
Definitely not singing.
Yeah, right, exactly. So maybe it's just Dave has a lot of experience in heavy metal. Like he loves that kind of thing. If you listen to Brown Sound, his side project, you can really see where his background is. So maybe he just brought that out in Derek, like, okay, like I'll write some heavy metal influence tracks for you to play, which is cool. I mean, yeah, interesting.
I've heard from interviews before that like the transition into that pop punk on Underclass Hero was very intentional as a way to get away from like the darkness of Chuck. Same thing going back to the metal. Pretty sure, from what I remember, they were trying again to get away from that pop punk. Be like, oh look, we can still do this too.
Interesting.
So maybe it just happens to coincide with that.
Right. Yeah, well, for me, this one had a couple more duds on it than 13 Voices. Like I didn't like the New Sensation. Heads Roll wasn't my favorite, but then there was some good tracks like Turning Away. The last 4 tracks were all pretty strong. It was just kind of like, it was interesting change from 13 Voices, and it kind of had some really good stuff on it. Like I was always interested to, like you were talking about cringy lyrics. This definitely cringed me up. He focuses on relationship with like God and belief in in God, and like it's just kind of funny, like how much he talks about that in a lot of these darker albums, heavier albums, and then political stuff. Of course, I've never been a political guy when it comes to music, which is probably why I've never been a big punk fan. Because it's just like the focus is a little too much one gear, But yeah, I really like this one. Out for Blood. Yeah, that was a good song. Overall it's a good album, and I didn't have a huge problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I mean, I liked overall what I heard. I mean, I will say that the undertones were a little bit too, like Kyle said, they were a little bit too like pushy. And I mean, it's one thing if you're writing American Idiot, it's another thing if you're writing like this. I mean, to me, that's how I look at it. But like, but I will say that Mike, I agree with you actually. For once, that Underclass here is the best album that they put out. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
which is true though.
It's just true.
It is true. What I was gonna say though was, besides making my joke, is that the last 4 tracks were actually pretty good. I mean, 7 through 10, Never There, Eat You Alive, The People Versus, and Catching Fire. Those I thought were actually pretty solid tracks too. And also, can we just take a note that there's finally an album that is legit actually like 1 minute and 0 seconds long. I want to applaud them for that alone. That's pretty funny actually. It's 36 minutes exactly. Which I applaud them for doing that. Number one. I agree with you though, Kyle. Heads Will Roll acoustic and Catching Fire acoustic questionable. Why would that be acoustic? I agree with you on that. Why acoustic, but whatever. I'm all for acoustic stuff. I mean, Good Riddance, Ordinary World, stuff like that. Those are all good acoustic songs too. But like even the Blink-182 Bored to Death one, I thought that was pretty good too. But the fact of the matter is that this is their most recent release, and overall I liked it for what it was. I mean, it was, other than like, if you're gonna be a certain way, like if you're gonna like lean a certain direction, just don't be like overdo it. Like you know what I mean? Like if you say like if you just go flat out like I'm against this or I'm pro that or whatever, like we understand that everyone has their own opinion, but you just because it echoes. Like, I'm a big fan of like when we did like at least it wasn't like, what was it, Shinedown's release. I thought that was less like, that was just more like the world as a whole, if you will, and whereas this was a little bit like a little pushy, but whatever.
I mean, even if you look at American Idiot.
Yeah,
it's very much the same type of thing where you can generalize that and broaden it out. It's not them sitting there saying, "Hey, screw you, George Bush, you're a bad man."
Exactly.
Like, this is legitimately just like Donald Trump's a bad man.
Yeah,
you shouldn't like him. He's a bad guy. It's like, okay, you can think that, like, fine, you can have your opinion, but like, why?
Right.
Why can't you do it subtly or like in a creative way? Why do you have to just come right out and say it? And
I know that
I would feel that way. Yeah, and I would feel that way even if it's not politics. Any kind of lyrics like that are just so like non-subtle, that are just like this. It's like writing a song and being like, "A rose is red." Like, yes, we know that.
That's actually
like,
a good way of putting it.
Like, you don't need to tell us
that was so
like,
deep.
Like, the sun is hot, winter is cold. Like, yes, thank you, but like, what's the purpose of you telling us this?
Yeah, right.
And that's
that's
my problem with a lot of the lyrics out here.
Just a note, I do disagree with Kyle on the album cover. I actually really enjoy the album cover. It is a throwback to the old school metal shirts from like Metallica era, like Master of Puppets. There's the hands with the, they had the hands over top of the, with the strings attached, which is like the throwback to like, Metallica's like, with the Master of Puppets kind of thing. That's a Master of Puppets right there. I remember I wore a t-shirt to school. I actually was told to leave because it said it had Kill 'Em All from Metallica's Kill 'Em All.
That's awesome.
And they literally said, you have to go home and change. And I was like, I'm gonna go home and I'm not gonna come back. So they're like,
that's the thing. Yeah. I agree. Like, I like that design on like a shirt. I'm not sure if it works so well as an album cover. And to me, it's mainly like you really used back to back, just a black background with a random picture on it.
Yeah, could have been something other than black. But I do like the art, old school looking art. Almost reminds me of like the skulls like He-Man-ish kind of, like
Mhm.
it
Yes,
reminds me of a
He-Man.
little-
Yes.
yeah, 80s kind of, like they're definitely, they're definitely leaning towards the heavy metal like style kind of overall theme, and I think that's why I liked this album to the degree that I did, is because even when it failed, its highs were high enough to keep me hopeful for the next album, and that this album actually had some interesting enough stuff on it, catchy enough stuff, and the fact that they're genreing as heavy metal, punk rock, hard rock, melodic hardcore, that's debatable. But
They've had melodic hardcore listed on a lot of these albums, I noticed. And
Yeah.
I don't hear it on any of them.
that's a head scratcher right there,
Yeah.
man.
I don't know whoever's putting those genres in.
It's just confused.
Maybe Kyle
I
can
don't know
go
if
back
I've
on
ever actually heard
Wikipedia and
melodic
edit all
hardcore
of them.
before, but it's not
Yeah,
it.
Kyle, go edit every one of them, Kyle.
I might have to.
He's taking one for the team. So
yeah.
but I just want to say something really quick. You talk about like the album cover and whatnot. I mean, Rose, and you talk about lyrical stuff. So everything you just said made me think of this: roses are red, violets are blue. When I listen to Metallica, my neighbors do too. It's great.
Exactly.
Sorry,
Well said.
that's the first thing I thought of. Like that's what everything you just said just made all that sense to me. Oh my god!
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
but I mean, overall, over order and decline, where does it rank for you guys amongst your I was about to say like Green Day for some 41 albums?
I mean, for me, I put it at number 4. It's like
Okay.
the perfect exact middle of their discography. It's really good. I think that they do have the potential to put another top 3 album in there if they continue with this and perfect it a little bit more. Maybe just, 1 or 2 less fillers in there. And I think they have the potential to do another perfect album.
Sweet. Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, actually, I'm right there with them. 4. It's not better than the established sound. In this case, like unlike 13 Voices, where I felt like it was like a perfect marriage of that stuff, and still contained the punk. It still had the catchy choruses and the metal and punk, but this one, it was definitely like 4, out of the 7, and definitely I'm excited to hear what's next. And Heaven and Hell, I mean, things seem to get dark up in here, man. Getting dark. Like, I mean, we're starting. I mean, next thing you know, like Derek's gonna have like, I don't know, like a freaking like a pentacle on his forehead, and he's gonna turn into like this, like crazy, like real heavy metal kind of act. Like, who knows, man?
It's gonna be
As
all
long as
extreme metal. It's gonna be very pop punk. It's gonna be like old skate punk, and it'll be all extreme like black metal. That's the next logical step.
I mean, as long as it's not Underclass Hero Part 2. Anyway,
I mean, as long as
that was a low blow right there, my man.
Part 1 will be Heaven will be Underclass Hero, and Hell will be Screaming Bloody Murder. That'll be your perfect combo.
No, that sounds like Double Hell. Okay, listen, all right, I don't need.
That's a good album title right there. Double Hell. Yo, I
Double Hell / Underclass Hero Part 2.
Anyways, that's all of their albums. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can go back to our triangle, where Illuminati confirmed, whatever. And Kyle can share his ranking list that he made. All set. Let me see. There you go. I think you could share now. Can you? There we go. Woohoo!
I gotcha.
Yes. Here we go.
All right. So first we got mine. Got number 1, the best one, Underclass Hero. 2, Does This Look Infected? 3, All Killer No Filler. 4, we got Order and Decline. 5, 13 Voices. Sorry, Mike. 6, Screaming Bloody Murder, and 7, Chuck. We got JT's next with Chuck. Does This Look Infected? All Killer No Filler. Great Minds Think Alike. Underclass Hero. Order and Decline. 13 Voices, and Screaming Bloody Murder. And then we got Mike's questionable list here. We got
But
13 voices. Number 1.
Absolutely.
Does this look infected? Being the only one we agree on. Chuck, Order in Decline. All Killer No Filler, number 5. Screaming Bloody Murder, and incorrectly at number 7, Underclass Hero. Incorrectly.
Yes.
Hot damn.
That one.
I love that number 7. I wish I could stare at that for the
I
rest
find
of
it
the
just
night.
very interesting that we all agreed on Does This Look Infected being number 2.
Yeah.
And other than that, we all had pretty different lists.
Absolutely. We
Hey,
all, I mean,
That's what makes the world go round. I mean,
Screaming Bloody
you know.
Murder, and incorrectly number 7 Underclass Hero. Where's that coming from?
what's going on here? I mean, that must be Underclass Hero infecting the internet and airwaves.
we're
here
doing
and
just
causing-
fine. Don't worry about it.
I
Took me a hot
Right,
second
yep.
there, but I figured it out. It's okay.
know. I was
So-
hoping you were lagging again.
Oh no. I was definitely not lagging. Don't worry. I'm all set. I got my internet fixed. Don't worry, you kids out there.
Oh,
But need we say more? That's gonna do it for us on this ranking of Sum 41's career discography. What do you think? Jump down in the comment section below of this video. Share this video. Share the podcast. Share us all around. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Like us on Facebook simply at The Super Review Show. And if you like what you've seen here, subscribe to us. Follow us on podcast format. And Mike is holding up the number 7. He is so wrong. We're on the There's no hope. There's no hope for humanity. How dare you put that at your numbers?
What do you think of Underclass Hero, everyone? Tell Mike how wrong he is.
Comment in the section.
Whoever wants to DM us or tweet us or whatever, tell us why Mike is wrong. Just straight up.
And for those who think I'm right, make sure you comment while I'm
Just don't even
right, you know?
comment. Don't even comment.
Don't even comment.
But ultimately, guys, is what you guys have to say out there. Jump down in the comment section. We'll share your thoughts on all. I've said all this crap already. That's gonna do it for us. So for all of us here at the Super Review Show, stay safe